Welcome to the Forever Classic Podcast. I'm Alex McCumbers. I got with me Joe Simpson, and we are going to talk some games, guys. It's going to be super fun. There's a lot of new details come out about the Xbox Series X especially, and so that's one of the main things we're going to be bringing up. And then we've also got some indies we're going to talk about, because me and Joe, we don't slow down. We keep gaming. So, Mr. Simpson, how are you, man?
Um, a little bit tired. It's been 2 days of basically just taking everything we own and putting them in boxes, and it looks like we have a massive drinking problem.
Yeah, because you have all these, like, alcohol cases.
Liquor stores are literally the best place to get boxes for moving because they have so many boxes, and they're just like, yeah, please take some.
For sure. And
Hey,
I just got off
thanks
of
for
a shift.
thanks for the host there, Dan the Cheesy Man. Appreciate that.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Wow. All right, so I just got off at a shift at my new job at Amazon. I'll go ahead and say it. I am working in their fulfillment center, and I am learning how to like pack boxes to ship them out, and so that's kind of cool. It's a job, right? But it pays well, and it was kind of fun in like me just being fascinated by systems. I treat it kind of like a video game. The only thing that sucks is you can't listen to music.
And you
If it
can't
was
level up.
that, well, you can level up. It's
Ooh,
just it's like
it's
it's
called a
interesting.
raise.
Yeah. So I've been there for a single day. That's as far as we've gotten. It's 4 10-hour days for me, and then I get paid weekly. So
Oh, weekly is nice.
yeah, but I don't get paid this first week. I have to wait for to go back a week.
Oh, I see
But
how it is.
I might get some money on like some training that we had to do before we started. I don't know.
Okay.
But I have a job now,
So, when
and
I order something from
that's cool
Amazon,
too.
there's a slim chance you or Grubby Fingers touched it.
Yes. I was
Excellent.
wearing gloves.
Oh, so no. Alright, so
No.
you're safe, folks.
Yeah, well, you're safe from me. I can't I can't speak to anybody else.
Fair enough.
Now we have a good group starting out. It's going to be interesting to see just how crazy things get for a holiday rush at a place like Amazon, because you think that like Amazon puts out so much bulk and ships out so many items that like it's got to be crazy, right? But
Yeah.
I've worked at it like a GameStop at peak holiday season, and that
Yeah.
GameStop was a million and a half, $2 million store or whatever. It was
Okay.
it was a slammer, right? Like we always had people coming and going. And so I can probably keep up with it, but the problem is I've been at a desk job for the last 4 years, maybe longer, and so my body's just really not used to it. And so that's I think the biggest challenge, but in a way that is almost a positive, because going to the gym is like super dangerous right now, but going to work at Amazon less dangerous, just
Thank you
as
for
much
the
exercise.
subscription, Dan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. But yeah, so do I feel fulfilled? I don't know yet. We'll see. Because at the end of the day, I would love to do Forever Classic as a full time job. That's the dream, right? Like, can I do that and then also support myself, support my wife, support my family, and make that happen? Is that possible? I think so. Is it doable in the foreseeable future? Like in the near-sighted future? Maybe not. But we've got some pretty cool stuff. Joe, here pretty soon we are going to be running some ads, and so we're doing some for freezies for various podcasts we like. There might be a particular indie game that's going to send us an ad spot, and I'm really looking forward to those because the ads I think on the Forever Classic podcast are more they're more creative focused. Like we already have a couple of them ready to go, and then we're going to cut some more and make some for some people. And so if you're listening on a podcatcher, first of all, thank you for doing that because I know that I'm really behind as far as the uploads and such, but you can catch all of these episodes live on Twitch, and then they're usually on YouTube within a day or two. So if you
Uh,
want to get up to the minute stuff on Forever Classic, definitely hit up the YouTube for the actual podcast discussions.
so some of the or some really helpful feedback for us would be to cater to your preferred listening experience. Would you prefer ads like up front and get it done with, or a mid roll, or at the end? I guess is kind of like
Yeah.
what would be best for our audience, because we want to make sure that we're not disruptive of your
Yeah.
enjoyment of our content for the sake of our ads.
my thought was to do mid-roll, and of course, anytime it's
That's really
something that
common.
like, yeah, and we're really transparency is a huge focus for me especially, and so anything that we got some money on or whatever, that's going to be completely open to the public. So if anybody wants to know, like, did we get paid for a certain thing? Yes, that's going to be upfront. All of the reviews, if say a company buys ad space for us, that means I'm not going to review it. That's just the way it is usually. There might be some corner cases here and there, but for the most part, if an ad and money comes in, specifically if money comes in, then I'm not going to touch it as a review because that could be skewed as like altering the thoughts of certain things, and that's not what I'm about. So I'm super transparent about this type of stuff, and I always in our reviews like say this is how I captured the screenshots. We got a code. We got this for free. I bought this. Whatever.
Right.
So everybody who interacts with our content will know that stuff up front. But Joe, we have been playing some games, so I think where I want to start is probably the last game that I finished, and you probably have yet to get there, is Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
I think I'm at like 40, 45% through.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll kind of focus on the beginning, and we can even talk. I think we talked about some of this last week too. But how
Yeah.
are you getting on with Will of the Wisp? Because I thought it was really good.
I thoroughly enjoy it. It's so the first one I think is a really good like starting place for them. Um, like really established these characters and like told a lot of story with basically nothing. There's these
Yeah.
moments in not only the action but like in the background, but just like in 2 minutes without any spoken dialogue, they pull an up on you, and you're just
Mhm.
like there with them, and you're ready to go through this adventure, and it really like comes together and closes really well. Uh, and
I
just
think
like
that the
you have this.
music does a lot of the stress work for that personally. Like if you were to take out the emotional swells of the music, would you still feel the same?
I
I
mean,
don't know if
it's
you
hard to
would.
say, but you could say that about pretty much any medium.
Well, yeah.
Um, like watching the first 10 minutes of Up would be really weird without the track "Married Life" attached to it,
Right.
specifically designed for those moments.
But
Um,
that's what I'm saying is the music is such an achievement in not only what is the first one called? Ori and the
Blind
Blind
Forest.
Forest
Yep.
and Will of the Wisps, I think even more so. The music is just phenomenal.
Yeah. It. I think it's done a really good job of invoking this kind of like mysterious feel to it, especially in Will of the Wisps, where I'll be like exploring, and as I'm exploring, the music like really like matches this like feeling of discovery, so to
Yes.
speak. Or and then like it also simultaneously matches like the environment that you're exploring. It's really really good. The thing that I had to get used to is because for me, I finished Blind Forest and then immediately started Will of the Wisps, and so I was trying to
Yeah.
like pull off moves you just can't do anymore, and then
No,
they
either they've
with
been remapped or you don't have them.
right. So there's remapping, and then there's also like expanded abilities that are assigned. So you have control over that. So I can kind of like set new expectations fairly easily, like what
Mhm.
button feels natural for this action, and then I can make that happen,
Yeah,
which is
because you
nice.
get like a wheel and you can assign those to any button.
Yeah.
So usually, the X position on the Xbox is what I would put the sword slash. And then like the B button, I would do heals. And then Y, I would do, like some sort of ranged or whatever. But I
Okay.
think that system is really, really cool. And to put it into perspective, I've played both of these games now on the Switch specifically. I've only touched the ports. And the Switch port, while very, very impressive for Will o' the Wisps, like I watched a Digital Foundry breakdown, which is fantastic because of the way they like hyper bring things into focus where your eye naturally would be and kind of blur things around
Yeah.
it to just keep it at a very, very stable frame rate is super impressive. But once you get to the point towards the end of the game where you can move quickly through areas, the Switch really struggles because you
Okay.
can get into places, you can crash the game very, very easily just by opening the map and moving quickly and warping from place to place. And so but like it's a very functional port and you can play the game fine. It's just I think if you're a speedrunner of the Switch game, you would not want to do that because it just doesn't hold up to even very casually moving quickly.
Yeah. Okay. I have a friend that he doesn't have a really great computer,
Hmm.
um, and he doesn't have an Xbox, and so the Switch ports are his only way to enjoy it. And he's a huge Hollow Knight fan, so when he sees these types of games, he's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, like that's what I like." And so, we're looking at a situation where that's for a lot of people, I'm sure, where the Switch is the only console. It's a great opportunity to experience this game, but with some of the like maneuvers that I've had to pull, like I know I've had to pull in the game, I can't imagine doing that with the Joy Cons in portable mode. And I know he's got a Switch Lite,
Yeah.
and so he doesn't. I mean, short of buying a Pro controller and then like setting it up and then like playing, he's got to use the built-in controller.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to me. Um,
So it's funny you mentioned the Joy-Con because I don't know if I would enjoy these games as well. I guess I played the first one with Joy-Con, but now I have the Hori Split Pad Pro that feels very much like, an Xbox One or a 360
yeah,
controller.
and
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 so
it,
that makes it way more comfortable.
I'm sure it does. And you have that option with a regular Switch. You can even see here on the breakdown they are showing it on a Switch Lite.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not the most comfortable for like intense platforming. And I would imagine maybe the first one was better on Joy Cons because the controls were simpler. But with the
Yeah.
just the added like you have all these extra maneuvers and attacks and abilities that you can perform. You're using more of the shoulder buttons and you're using the the face buttons as well, and so you just don't have the right grip for comfortably hitting at all of those when you might need to.
And I played entirely both games in portable mode because my Pro controller's got stick drift. I haven't got it
Oh man.
repaired yet. So I've
So
been playing portable, with the Hori Split Pad Pro, which feels amazing. But like the games definitely are playable. It's just that there's definitely like something to be said about the high fidelity of Ori titles. And I can't wait to see what the Series X's
yeah,
4K version will bring because I
they
think I want
are
to revisit this game when that happens.
they are gorgeous games.
Hmm.
The art direction is phenomenal with its use of color and like natural lighting, like or simulated natural lighting to really like make things pop and glow. They
Yeah.
really are good at making you draw your eye to the thing you're supposed to be paying attention to. Um,
Things feel realistic in the sense that like when you land on a branch, the branch will bend,
yeah, like all these
and
little
that physics
details.
system is fascinating.
And then there's also like all the little things happening in the bit in the background, and then like the far distance background you see things happening. And when you come into an area and you see this like landscape of whatever it may even just be like shadowy like monuments or whatever it is, you're just kind of like really appreciating and in awe, and like it really is good at drawing you into those moments, and
Yeah.
it makes you want to explore it.
Mhm.
It makes you want to like jump and see, oh, it looks like I can get up there. The question is, can I get up there now? And so
Yeah.
you'll attempt a jump like 10 times before you just kind of realize, all right, so there's an ability that I get later that enables me to get there. And I think there's a couple of like I wouldn't be surprised if I went and watched like a speedrun tutorial and there's a couple of like maneuvers that allow you to skip like a specific or get to someplace earlier. And there's one spot where I think I may have accidentally done that because I got there and I'm like, well, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, yeah, there are
And so then I
definitely
just had to
some
go
jumps
back.
that are built into the game like that where it seems tougher and it's intended to use a specific skill. But there are definitely ways you can get to places if you're crafty enough and
Yeah.
you really understand the systems. My major criticism of these games is there's a lot of, and I think I had a similar issue with Hollow Knight. There's a lot of foreground elements that cover up enemies, and so I am constantly taking damage in these games, and it's just because like I didn't see something quick enough, or just like the way. a lot of the enemies in this game, aside from bosses, are very just like shapes. They're not necessarily creatures, so to speak. Like they're not as realized as the bosses. And so
Yeah.
I think that's one of the weaker elements of this game. But the bosses in
It makes the bosses
Will o
feel
Wisps
really
are just
epic
like
though.
really good. Kind of annoying. Some of the bosses are really annoying, but the way they look is so cool, and I'm excited to see, once you finish the game, what does our conversation look like then? Because there's some
Yeah.
elements that are definitely spoiler city that I
Well,
want to just like,
our
touch with
our
you.
experiences are going to be different because I'm playing it via Xbox Game Pass on PC, and I
Yeah,
am playing it in 4K.
yeah,
And so, and I there are times where I've noticed like slowdown,
hmm
like coming out of menus, and so there nothing really impacts my gameplay or my overall experience, but it is noticeable when I go to like quick switch my ability and come out, and my momentum is like stuttery because
yeah,
the frame rate dip is so bad, and then it's like trying to like catch back up.
yeah.
Um,
And that's gotten better in my understanding because when it first came out to the Xbox One, people were having complaints that are very similar to that. And
okay.
so it seems like they've patched a lot of things and it's improving. And of course, we're getting that huge 4K update.
This
They're
breakdown
wizards over at
is
Moon
is
Studios.
fascinating to me specifically because this
hmm
is like literally my day job.
Yeah, this is just the kind of
I
stuff
get
you do.
provided sick ass art, and then I get to cut it apart and bring it into layers and animate it, and it looks awesome. And so I'm
hmm
like watching them break it down, and I'm seeing all the layers like disappear and pop into place and stuff. It's a really cool breakdown.
You can
Uh,
make a video game. That's a totally like passable thing. Just gotta have all the right skills
how
and
did you
put everything
design
in the
this
right
level?
place.
Well, I just took this box art, cut it
I
apart,
mean, yeah.
and then I get
But
a cease and desist.
yeah. So connected to Ori, Ori is a guest character in a Smash Brothers style game that's fairly popular, and it just got a definitive edition on the Switch. So have you ever heard of Rivals of Aether?
I have not.
It's a pixelated Smash Brothers style game. It's similar, I think, in style to like a Smash Brothers Melee. And it's my understanding that these devs made fun little Game Boy style Smash Brothers fan games before they went on to make Rivals of Aether. And Rivals of Aether is really cool because it's got a Boar Shovel Knight as a guest character.
Yeah.
And when we talk to the folks at Yacht Club, they're like, this is one of our favorite versions of our character that we didn't do. And then it's got Ori, and so it's
Okay.
that, and then like a collective roster of really fun characters that are from different like tribes and region. Like you have like a fire section, and so there's two characters. There's one that's like a hyena, and he's like a sneaky, stabby lion. And then there's another fire lion that's just like a stereotypical warrior type of guy. But the game plays really good. The only thing that sucks about the Switch version is the game got a lot of popularity because of its modding scene. This is the game where
Oh,
if you saw that headline about the playable Joy-Cons that's always drifted slightly to the left, that's this game.
that's hilarious.
But it's the mod, right? But the
That's a
core
really
systems are
cool
fun.
implementation of the dash ability in
Yeah,
the
there's some really cool stuff. Ori especially, I
kind of
think
feels
feels
like
really interesting.
what is it in Smash Bros, the one with the star?
Oh, Rosalina.
Yes.
Yeah, but so I'm not super good at this game yet because I'm much better at Smash than I am Rivals because the physics just feel slightly different. But I
Yeah.
went and watched like pro players play this game, and you can do some sick stuff with it, like zoning and making sure that like certain things happen at certain times. Like the timing is a little tougher in my opinion to get down. You need a little bit more finesse in your stick movements. But it is a cool game. Like the visuals are fine. I think all of these like unique characters are actually really cool and interesting and fun, and all of
Yeah.
them have like very particular either a gimmick or they have like certain setups and very specific kill moves and this and that. So if you're into Smash and want something that's just different enough, I think Rivals of Aether is a great buy. It's $30 currently on Steam. I think that's about what it is on Switch. And the PC version might be the best because you get those mods. I mean, obviously. But like playing it on Switch feels great. Shovel Knight looks amazing. Like it's a cool little game. And so I'm gonna have a review done for Will of the Wisps probably this week. And then Rivals of Aether is my next project. And then there's another game on the Xbox I need to cover. I've got a whole list of things I'm reviewing.
Yeah.
Too
So
many things.
one of the games I've been playing recently, and it kind of taps into my like Lord of the Rings and board game roots. Lord of the Rings, the living card game, is a
Okay.
game. So it's a physical game that I've played in the past. It's punishingly difficult. There's a deck building mechanic where you build decks centered around these heroes, and you go against the game system, and it's a cooperative card game working against the game itself. And there have been times where we have just lost everything in like 2 rounds. There are even more frustrating times. We are 1 round away from winning, and we just can't do it. And so
Oh, okay.
it's one of those games where it just throws everything it has at you. But a couple years ago, and I played it at PAX on a I think an iPad
Hmm.
preview build of it, and I enjoyed it. I just have been caught up in other things, but this is also on the Game Pass, and I'm like, I should
Oh,
really
of
finally
course.
give that a chance. Um, and the other night, I spent 4 hours trying to beat one encounter, and I could not do it.
Wow. And
And
so for anybody that's listening in, this game looks very similar to like a Hearthstone,
yes,
visually especially.
I will say what I appreciate about this is it does mix the gameplay a little bit up from the physical card game just to like make it work as a digital game.
Right.
But what I appreciate about it is if I lose, it's only like 5 seconds to restart the encounter and try it again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the physical game, it's like a good 5 minutes of
Because you got to reset up the
you got to
enemy.
reshuffle all the cards, and then that's not even counting if you do any deck building. The deck building in
Right.
this is really straightforward. Certain cards are only so each there's 4 different types of heroes, like leadership, attacking, support. Like there's these roles that they can play, and
Right.
you have in order to play certain cards, those cards are associated with those hero types. And so when you select your heroes, you can only use cards in those heroes types. And so
Oh,
when you add a hero, only those card types become available for you to scroll through. So you're not
kind of like in Hearthstone, how you pick a class.
kinda, yeah. So you're
Okay.
not shuffling through or digging through heaps of physical cards to build a deck. You're just all right. Well, that didn't work. I'm just gonna throw these out. All right, what can I replace it with, and then throw these two in or whatever. It's really
The
quick.
game only shows you what you can put into the deck
Right,
based on those restrictions.
exactly. Multiplayer cooperative is built into the game, so it should be
Nice.
pretty quick to play with a friend. I don't know how the deck building works with that. You both have to have decks, I think, that do not have conflicting heroes because they're
Hmm.
they're unique cards, so you can't have two on the
Right.
field at the same time. Um, which creates some interesting mechanics too, because say your deck has Gandalf as a hero, well, that
Hmm.
automatically makes it that as long as your Gandalf hero is on the field, your friend can't play their Gandalf card out of their deck.
Right. Now, is it like Magic, where if your friend puts that Gandalf card down, it destroys the first instance of Gandalf?
I don't think so. You just can't play it. It
Because
just
that's
like
how unique cards work in Magic. And so sometimes, if you have a particular setup, you can kind of use that to your advantage. So if you have a
yeah.
monster that's like got a bunch of neg 1 counters or something, you can just play another one, instantly kill the first one,
No,
and
I
now
think they're
you're
playing
hanging
it
out with the
more as
fresh
if
one.
Gandalf is already here. He can't possibly be over here,
Yeah.
um, doing something else. But no, it's a fun game. It's fun to like play out the different strategies and play around with it. I think I got into it a little bit faster because I'm familiar with the original
Right.
card
Yeah.
game. A friend of mine and myself just have spent hours upon hours throwing ourselves at the original physical release of this game. It's also a fun game, just period, because when you buy like the physical game, it's those are the cards that you get. It's not a trading card game.
It's a deck building game, so
yeah,
you already have all the things you would want.
And you can mix and match between all the different expansions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know exactly what you're getting when you buy the game, and so you can kind of like plan around that, which is pretty cool.
I have a card game that I reviewed a while back on Marooners Rock. This was another PAX experience, but it's called Phoenix Covenant, and it is a mix of like Magic the Gathering meets Final Fantasy Tactics, because you're actually moving characters on a board, and like their positioning and the way they're facing all matters. And I thought it was a really cool game. Like I was really into it. The problem is trying to teach that to somebody takes a lot longer than like basics of Magic.
Yeah.
And so like even when I was like I got my friend who's the one guy who absolutely adores card games and he loves rules. He's the guy who like studies, the D&D books front to back. And so I was like, me and you will play, because between the two of us we can figure this out. And even that, I think we only played a single match together.
Oh.
But it's cool. I wish there was a digital version. That'd be awesome. But digital card games I really like. Like the Yu-Gi-Oh card games were some of my favorites because it moved everything so snappy, and all of the like rules would hit automatically. And so you didn't have to be like, well, where in the stack does this trigger? And I think that's also the highlight of the newest Magic game, Magic Arena. It's all, auto math.
Well, then you
I love that.
And then you run into those situations where you're like, why wouldn't it let me do this? Only to find out it's because you're not supposed to do that, but you've been playing it wrong this whole time.
Yeah, but I really like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Game Boy Advance games because, you get to open packs. Opening packs is fun, but you don't have to use any microtransactions because it was a game from 2003.
That's true. So on the Game Pass version of the game, there are 3 campaigns included, which at this point in time, I am on the 4th out of 5 or 6 episodes of the first campaign or chapters, and I cannot beat it. I cannot beat the fourth chapter. It just hits so hard. The game is designed where basically it cheats. There's no other way. Like you'll just be completely tapped out. Like you can't possibly make another move, so you end your turn and you look over and Sauron still has 5 points to spend, and you just spend everything just defeating 2 monsters on the field, and then he summons 4 more, and you're just like, no.
Dang it, Sauron.
It's good though. But so there's plenty to play there if you do decide to pick it up. And you can play with friends, so if you enjoy it, share it with friends and play it together.
We've been kind of down on some co-op here recently because the Left 4 Dead 2 got that new expansion. We fiddled around with that.
Yep.
And then we all realized that we have World War Z on the Epic Store.
Yeah.
And so even though we haven't got to play together, we've all been separately experimenting in this.
So Zach and I actually played together last night.
It's kind of, you guys got to play together.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we were up till it would have been like 4 a.m. for him. 3 or 4 a.m.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's no way I could have done it because I had to be at work at 7:30
we started at like 11.
Yeah. So I was in bed by 10.
Hold on. Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's definitely coming from you because when the whistle happens, your screen lights up.
Okay. Oh, we're good now.
The wind?
I think it was someone's car. But I was just making sure it wasn't someone's like fire alarm.
Yeah, right? But no, so World War Z, I think the first thing I noticed about it, because I was like fiddling through the menus, there's a progression system, which I think is perfect for this type of game. And that's why Vermintide is so addictive as well, because it has that baked into it. But I love the diverse cast in this. It's cool.
Yeah, so what I know, one of the things that it kind of feels like though is it almost seems like there's more characters available than there are zombies coming at me. The
Yeah,
number of times I see 2 or 3 of the exact same model of zombie coming at me is too often for a
yeah.
game where you're fighting a swarm.
Oh,
Um,
I definitely have criticisms about this game, but
uh, but the thing I think that it does well is I think it really does the swarming aspect really well. Like
yeah.
watching them climb up over each other and to get over an obstacle is frightening because
And there's some like smoke and mirrors, especially in the first level that you do, because out in the distance behind the glass, you'll see like them filling the streets, and that's just like that's not being rendered. That's just
playing it back.
play.
Yeah. And it's super satisfying to throw a grenade in a pile of zombies and watch them and
See, I've been
watch
using
the whole thing
Molotov,
collapse.
which isn't nearly as impressive because it puts out a little fire patch like this big, and so
um,
half the time the zombies just walk around it.
well, I mean, you can pick up like a grenade launcher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Whenever you
and
get some of the bigger weapons, it's hella fun.
Yeah, the heavy weapons are limited, or like they're considered a consumable. So once you expend
Yeah,
it, it's gone, and you have to
and they
find
feel
another heavy
awesome.
weapon. And so like I have to remind myself, no, use the heavy weapon. That's what it's there
Mhm.
for, and then fall back onto your reliable weapons or whatever.
Yeah. And
And
as you move through the game, the weapon tiers, so their strength is very clear. There's a little like
yeah,
UI element that tells you what it is, and I thought that was really handy.
yep. They're like some of the abilities are really fun. You're like reading through them. The gunslinger has one called My Bad, where you now deal 50% friendly fire. So you deal half as much damage to friendlies
I
as you
should
did
probably
before
take that one. I'm playing the oh, I think it's a tank class, but it's very like fire based. So I picked the character
Okay.
who's a firefighter,
Is that
and
like
I
the
was like, ooh,
exterminator or whatever?
I think so. Yeah. So it's you start with a Molotov and a shotgun, and then like various abilities based on
Okay.
that. But I was having some fun with it. This game kind of reminds me a little bit of like almost like a Dynasty Warriors because
Yeah, you're right.
I feel like the special type zombies, they're definitely like archetypes that we've seen in Left 4 Dead, but they're
Yep.
just not nearly as distinct, and they're not
It's true.
nearly as just like useful. The only one that I ever get caught by is the bull, and that's because
Yeah.
he just has so much like armor.
Yep. The other thing I've enjoyed is the game's core mechanics are in co-op. Playing by myself was
Yeah.
not as engaging. Um,
No, especially whenever you have to like pick up various pieces
yes.
because you're the only one who will pick them up.
Yep. Uh, and uh, one of the things I noticed was last night the AI would not come with me. I would go off to go do something, and I would look behind me, and all 3 of them are off somewhere else
And if you
because
get
the
caught by a
AI,
bull, you're
yeah,
screwed,
the AI wouldn't come with me, and I'm like, boy, it'd be nice if at least one of them came with me,
right?
but they
Yeah.
were like glued to Zach.
Yeah, so once I realized that the AI won't pick up story based items at all, I
Yeah,
was like, okay, open it up to the online people, let them help me out, and that was kind of annoying because all the people I connected with were on Xbox, so maybe they were talking to each other, but it would always be like 2 or 3 people fucking off somewhere else, and then one guy like in Weirdsville, like way out there doing who knows what. And here I am in the middle, following the critical path or whatever, and I'm like, what
yeah.
is happening?
My 2 like big criticals of it so far are exploration is rarely rewarding enough to warrant it.
I disagree.
No, the number of times where I've gone like, oh, what's over here, and it's either nothing or I open a crate and it's useless has been far too many. And then it's like, and then there's like the special rooms where it's like, do you have a breach charge? I'm like, well, no,
I
because I'm
started
not.
finding those.
Yeah, we've in all of the time I think we found one, and then we opened it up and it was just full of stuff we already had, so we didn't use any of it.
Hmm.
And so it's just kind of like, all right, so why did we spend all the time wandering around and put ourselves at risk of getting attacked when we could have just made progress?
Right.
There also just isn't much exploration to be had. It's pretty
It is pretty
linear,
straightforward. Yeah.
and which is what I found interesting is even though it's that linear, I still had trouble figuring out what I needed to do or where I needed to be at sometimes. because
Some of the signposting isn't nearly as good as like a Valve level, where you
yeah,
kind of just end up where you're supposed to be, kind of subconsciously.
it just kind of yeah, just like funnels you in.
Yeah,
And I think part of it is because the like everything is at the same detail level. Whereas like back in the day, they could kind of trick you into going where they wanted you to go with like clever lighting, or some things were more detailed than others, so you just automatically
right.
paid more attention to it. And so you just kind of like went that direction because you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, it looks nice over here.
Now I
Uh,
like the environments in this game. That said,
yeah,
I
they
think
are.
they're interesting visually. They're like varied just enough.
Yeah, we did the all of New York story, and
Yeah,
I
I've
enjoyed
done
that.
that.
And then we did the first chapter of
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, and that was really cool. I
Hmm.
like the globetrotting a ton. It was one of the reasons
Yeah,
why I actually really enjoyed Battlefield 1, is because I got to see the war front on around the world, not just
yeah.
one regiment's campaign through Europe or whatever. Which there's nothing wrong with making your way through Europe, but when it's the seventh one, you're kind of like, well, it'd be nice to see something else.
Now, aside from, we have been trying to play more together with each other in co-op, and obviously we want to jump into Monster Hunter again sometime soon because Fatalis has just arrived, this big iconic dragon that's going to be super cool to fight. But one of my recent obsessions, Joe, is I love watching people play Spelunky, just in general. So Spelunky 2 just came out the past couple weeks on the PlayStation 4. It's now available on Steam, and it is one of the most like it's a roguelike. So all your stuff's generated, but there's all these little rules based on the type of tile or the enemy or the item. And so you're basically running through these miniature dungeons, learning these rules as you go, and trying to avoid death at all costs. While also finding little secrets that lead into other things. Like, for example, if you find a crown, whether it be an Egyptian crown or a crown that you find in like a vampire castle, if you have that crown, you can go pick up Excalibur in a later level because that sword is owned by kings and queens, right? And so there's all these like weird little things that you can start finding. And this game's insane. There's one bit where there's altars to Kali. And so one of the major mechanics that you start to run into is if you sacrifice enemies and allies onto that altar, there's a chance you'll get a item that allows you to like regain health every time a blood splatter hits you in a
Yeah,
certain way. And so that's huge because getting more health is like kind of hard in Spelunky. And so if you have the Kapala, you can get like 30 to 40 health, no problem, and it's great. But the thing is there's one level where if you have a specific item and you sacrifice yourself in a particular place, the item will revive you and put you into a new map. Like it's nuts.
interesting.
But Spelunky is like my recent obsession. I love watching people play, and so I watched some Grand Pooh Bear, right? Like the Mario guy, who's got a great video on Mario 35 that just went up. But
Yeah,
so Grand Pooh Bear does Spelunky, loves it, and is playing the new one. Well, one of the people he did co-op for the first Spelunky was a guy by the name of Dan Giesling.
yeah, I've
Now
already
you
got it pulled
may,
up.
yeah, you may recognize Giesling as the guy who was on Big Brother, and I know very little of this because I don't pay attention to reality TV shows.
I have no
But
idea who he is. So
dude, Dan Giesling is like he's one of my favorite people to watch play Spelunky because he uploads daily, sometimes 3 to 4 times a day, and he's just super entertaining. He's got all these like little phrases and shit for various things, and it's so like I turn it on and I want to watch every single moment because I want to see him succeed. And the game's like super hard, and it's when he wins, you win, and when he loses, you feel it. Like it's
yeah,
Spelunky's probably one of the best stream games out there.
yeah,
And so I'm eagerly awaiting making some money to pick up a copy of Spelunky 2. I was hoping we'd get a review copy, but that hasn't come in yet. And so in the meantime, I'm so obsessed with this game, I went back and played the original Spelunky. The designer like threw together and released online for free, right? Like I started playing that just to get a feel for like where did the series come from. And
right.
that design mentality is nuts.
Yeah, no, you'd thrown this one in chat, and I watched it while I was doing some work the other
Yes.
day. And so just like it was really cool of the dev team to sit and like really give appreciate like in recognition that there wouldn't be a Spelunky 2 if there wasn't a community around
Yep.
the original game, and that there were some specific influencers and content creators that really helped drive the popularity home. The number of people who said, I saw this person playing this game, so I decided to check it out. It looked fun.
Yeah.
And, you know,
So Dan is in the credits, and he
yeah.
didn't know that, and that's the video I sent you because I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, so
Um,
he's reading it and he's like, "Hey, look who it is." He's like, "It's Grand Pooh Bear," and he's like, "Wait," and he has this moment of like, "Wait a
mhm.
second,
That's me.
you guys put me in here?" Like he clearly doesn't think
Nobody
that.
told him.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know, and he clearly doesn't like think that he should have the
Right.
recognition. Like
Mhm.
he's like, why, you know? So
He stuck with it though.
yeah, and so he was super thankful, and he did own it too. He's just like, yeah, he's like, I had no idea, but there it is, and he's like, no one told me, and he's like, they kept that spoiler free for me to find on my own,
Yeah, so
because
not only did nobody in the dev team tell him, and it's a very small dev team, but nobody in his chat spoiled it. And I think that attributes to just how like genuine of a person this guy seems. And I've only been watching him for a little while, but I've watched like every Spelunky 2 video he has uploaded since this started. And he's
jeez.
probably uploaded like 17, 20. Like
Well, this
I've
one, the
watched
one
it
that you
all.
posted was 17.
Yeah. And so
Uh,
not only is he doing those, he's doing daily runs. And so daily runs is a whole different beast because you only get that like it's a seeded run that everybody gets and it's like any other roguelike. And so people compete in the leaderboard and one time he got 6th place, another time he got 250th. So it depends and it's so cool.
yeah. It's kind of like watching the randomizers for Link to the Past,
Yeah.
where it's just like there's a basic strategy. This might even be more randomized. It's just someone just connected those dots better than someone else did because of the way their brain thinks.
Mhm.
Um, but
It's a lot of reaction times. It's a lot of scoping out the situation, knowing what things do, having that like knowledge database of like, oh, this enemy moves in this particular way, or I can kill this enemy with this particular item that I have, or now that I have this item, I have these options, and it's fascinating. I love it. It's puzzle box design in such a grand scale, and I think that's really cool. The other thing that I'll say is that in Spelunky 2, there are background images that also are homages to other influencers, and it makes me wonder like how many other not just credits in that one instance of the images are linked to like somebody in the community or something that the designer is really connected well with. And I'm
yeah,
excited for the Steam version because apparently in the first Spelunky, or at least the like HD, the Spelunky one, so to speak,
yeah.
um, you can get custom sprites. And so I really want to see these streamers, especially Grand Pooh Bear, get his little like bear guy and run around as the bear guy, or Dame Greasing get somebody to make a sprite of like him or whatever. Like I really like the idea of running through the game and personalizing it like that. None of the characters have specific abilities, unlike Binding of Isaac, where one has like this type of starting kit and this style of heart or whatever. All these characters are cosmetic only, and
Right.
so not only am I excited to see like custom sprites, but I also want to see somebody mod in those abilities. Like, can we do, the this particular character starts with like 7 bombs instead of 2, but maybe comes with like 1 rope. That's the kind of thing that the modding community can really tinker with. And it seems like Spelunky has always kind of been open to mods, so it's just a matter of time.
That's pretty
But
cool.
I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It's so much fun to watch. Highly recommend watching anybody that does Spelunky, but Dan is definitely like one of the more consistents, and I find him really entertaining. And he's family friendly. He just
I
he
did
says
notice that.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Like if something good happens, he'd be like, "That's some good wood," like, or this is Minkus, and it's like, where do these things come from? He's just a goofy guy.
Yeah. So
It's
one of my pickups recently was Control on PC.
yeah, I
Um,
started that.
and
Yeah,
so I have an RTX compatible card, RTX
right.
2060. And
Hmm.
so part of why I picked it up was because I was like, well, I kind of want to see what this is about. I have the hardware, and I
Yeah,
think
might as well use it.
Epic Game Store had a thing like if you download free Rocket League, you get a $10 coupon, and I was like, all right.
Sure did.
And
Love that.
I will likely never play Rocket League, but I'll take $10. And so Control is $30 on the Epic Game Store, so I got
Yeah,
Control for $20, and
nice.
so
Did it come with all the like all the DLCs, or just the base
no,
game?
it's just the base game, and I don't need much
Oh,
more than
okay.
that, honestly. Um, but I've played Metro Exodus with RTX on,
Hmm.
and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, kind of like, oh, that's cool, like novelty, like
Yeah,
oh, neat, kind of thing. Um, and then just kind of like seeing like adding RTX to Minecraft or Quake, like those are fun, interesting like
I was gonna bring
things,
up Quake.
but
It's so
they
stupid,
don't
but
really
it's
like,
cool.
I don't know. It's just like, all right, good job, I guess. Like
Yeah.
from my perspective, like you did it. Like it's cool that people are still giving those games those attention, so that
Hmm.
they get like it's easier for people to have access to those things and experiment with those things because it's an older game and they can play around with that. This is the first game I've played where RTX on really did enhance my experience with the game. And I
That's
think it's
cool.
because the game is built around it. The game was intended for RTX support, and it
Mm.
shows. Like I'm playing a video now, and it's showing with the scene with it off, and then the scene with it on, and like everything from the volumetric lighting to the reflections. Like this room here, without RTX, is just black panels, and it's
It's very
glass.
flat. Yeah.
Yeah, you add RTX on, and you get the reflections, the infinity mirror thing, and
That's cool.
yeah, you get the reflections on glass, on the, like fluids on the floor,
Holy crap.
like
That's so neat. Games
and
are cool, man.
and so as someone who like has basic, in college I had a project where I modeled a saxophone and then did all the modeling and set a scene and lighting for this saxophone with tons of reflections on it. No
Yeah.
joke, for one frame took me 48 hours.
Jeez.
And it was at a school, it was on a school computer, and what my days consisted of was sitting down, I hit render, and then I just sat there until the school closed. And then I got back in the morning and prayed that it hadn't crashed while I was gone, and then babysat the
Mm.
computer again all day the next
Thank
day.
goodness most game design is done with like top of the line hardware.
Yeah,
Except
and
for those crazy fuckers making like Dusk and Medieval and shit. I'm sure they're making some of this stuff on laptops and
so
it looks incredible.
you know that's one frame of ray tracing rendering in the top, Autodesk Maya, uh,
Right.
software that's designed for ray tracing on hardware that probably should have been better for an art school, but you know, knowing that
Here
that
we
took
are
that long,
playing around with it
and
full
now we're
time.
doing it 60 plus frames a second.
Yeah, right?
The other thing that's impressive is they have something that's being added into games now. It's something that's been touted on the new consoles that are coming out, is DLSS, deep learning super sampling, which
Okay.
so it renders the game at one resolution and then upscales it to a higher resolution.
Using AI related
Yeah,
nonsense.
using for the same hardware capabilities that allows it to use your graphics card to say put a noise filter on your mic so it filters out banging on a desk or a child crying in the background. It
Hmm.
can super sample the image and blow it up into 4K. I'm rendering the game at 1080 and super sampling it to 4K, and the game looks phenomenal. I
That's
wouldn't be able
cool.
to tell you that it wasn't rendering in 4K. As soon as I hit that 4K mode, though, it like 20 frames a second just, and I like
Oh
at
no.
the time I had motion blur on, and the whole screen was just like a white like swipe, like the background just kind
Oh
of
no.
disappeared.
So you're struggling to actually, you can't render it in true 4K.
I cannot render it in 4K on my card.
Fascinating.
But all of the like reflections and functions and all that stuff works splendidly. It can get scaled up to 4K really, really well.
So you are using that
Yeah, I am using the DLSS to
Okay.
to display it. And so like just rendering it at 1080 and then blowing it up to my 4K screen or whatever. Like there's some jaggedness that happens and like some things. The game is already pretty soft in terms of its the like overall artistic choice. Like if you're looking at this, like it's got things have soft edges. And so there isn't a ton of anti-aliasing required to make it work. But when you blow it up, when you take something this and then you zoom into this, you start to notice some of the things. The DLSS takes away that artifacting.
Oh, fancy.
And so it's using AI to fill in those gaps intuitively to how they would need to appear, and it's taking that information. It's cool
like
tech.
It seems like a much larger version of what people are doing to old PlayStation games that have, rendered backgrounds. And so they're blowing those up and using AI to like supercell or whatever.
Yeah.
Make it really nice.
Well, it's what they've done with
my fingers are crossed that we get like a full on, and people are working on this now, a full on Legend of Dragoon, completely remastered. All the backgrounds look incredible. Like
that would be amazing. Because even just looking at like the PS4 versions of the PS1 Final Fantasy games, they look amazing.
Yeah, they do.
Like it's still clearly a PS1 game. It's clearly an older title, but they look so clean. And like the art really draws out. There's a few cases in Final Fantasy IX where I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that looks a little weird, and I can guarantee you it looks a little weird because they were rendering it and displaying it on an old TV, and that looked darker or more shadowy in that corner, and now it's all clean and vibrant, and now it looks jank.
Yeah. That's like oh shoot, there's another game where, you throw it into the modern era and it's like kind of changes the whole feeling of it. But I love taking games and, adding things to them like Turok. Turok on PC is completely different than what it was on the N64.
I think the old school like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic games would be really interesting to modernize.
A lot of people are into that. I have them, and I've been recommended them like every chance Eli gets. He's like, dude, you play all these retro games, go play Coder, and I'm like, I will, and I never have. They're installed.
Way to go!
I'm looking at it.
I have played the first one, and I played the first one through, but that was like 6 years ago already, and I've started the second one, but I need to dig it in and finish it. But now I need to figure out how to play it. I need to figure out how to play it because I have the PC version on disc, and my new PC doesn't have a disc drive.
Let's get you one to sell those. I've got one laying around. There's an external drive you can get for like $20.
Yeah, I just
haven't gonna do a USB thing. Yeah, it looks like
I don't know if I want to spend $20 right now to play KOTOR 2.
Well, yeah.
I've got.
Well, you can download it on GOG for $7.
Yeah, it's not expensive to pick up a different copy. At this point, the physical version is shelf candy.
Yeah. Now, is that DLSS the same thing they're using in the Xbox Series systems?
So
or do you know?
I believe
because there's upscaling going on. I just don't know if it's the same technology.
I think they've used the term a couple of times when describing it, particularly I think in the Series S.
The little one?
Yeah. But don't quote me on that. As someone who has basically the only way I'm going to end up with an Xbox Series X or S is if I win one somewhere. And even then, I might just sell it or make it run like a charity stream and have it as a donation incentive.
So me being the type of person that's fascinated by keeping retro games up to the modern spec, that way I can play them in like new ways sometimes. A lot of so what's happened is the Xbox Series X has been delivered to many different influencers and journalists. They have a preview unit. It's not a retail unit. And
Right.
so they were invited to, play with the physical unit, hold it, do whatever. And the other thing that Microsoft asked is for them to play older titles, whether it be Xbox One, Xbox 360, original Xbox in some cases, and talk about how those games have been improved mostly in loading times, also in resolutions. And so Digital Foundry, I think, has one of the best breakdowns of this. Of course, we come back to them because they're some of the best in the industry, right? When it
Their
comes to
breakdowns are
being
good.
very technical. So
Yeah.
their video, where they brought up games like Grand Theft Auto 4, a game I have no interest in, but just the way that that game not only vastly improved the load times, but made it look like a completely different game, like that shit excites me. And so I'm actually, in the retro sense, I want the Xbox now because of that, the way that it's going to make the older games play better than they ever have, because we do know that the PS5 will play PS4 games, but because the way Sony is being still pretty tight-lipped, they just now got a unit to like some Japanese YouTuber, and the name's escaping me, but like lots of people have the Xbox Series X, and sometimes it's not even like huge people in the industry. Sometimes it's just people that are more prominent, or they've been around a long time or whatever, and so we're new and we're humble, and we sure would like a look at one of those consoles, Xbox. Just saying. But I really like the information that they put out with these previews. So something like Red Dead Redemption on the Xbox One X takes a long time to load, right? Heaven forbid you play it on an original Xbox One. But you
Yeah.
stick that puppy into an Xbox Series X, you're loaded into the game, ready to go in like 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah. I
And
realized
that's
I had the wrong
crazy.
video.
Final Fantasy 15, super front loaded in its original loads. They load the game in 15 seconds or something. Like, you can find the numbers out there, but it is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And it's just like, it's so interesting how certain games like Hitman 2, they tried, like certain areas are really taxing on the system. So they're like, oh, we know this area. We always jump into here to test frame rates. And it just like, it doesn't skip a beat on the Series X. And that's, I think, what I'm most excited about, because I haven't had, I had like a quote unquote 4K TV, but I don't think it was true 4K by any stretch of the imagination. And so I want to get an actual like higher end 4K display, not only for my living room but for my desk as well. That way I can play games in higher fidelities and higher refresh rates. The whole 9 yards. I want that now, and the only reason I want that is because of certain higher end games. I'm interested in how far can this go, not to the extremes. Like, I don't need 120 frames per second. I just don't. I'm kind of interested in it. I would love to see Doom like that, but so this is the first generation that I'm like, okay, I want to jump into 4K, and I want to play like the new Spider-Man in the best that I can get it for the money that I have.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see
Do you know
how
about
the
where in that
Xbox
point,
shapes up.
where in that video the Grand Theft Auto is
Towards the end.
towards the
So
end?
it's like, yeah, I think it's like a 30-minute video, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's in the 25-minute mark somewhere. It's like one of the last things they test. Yeah, see, I think that might be Hitman or something. But yeah, either way, it's cool, dude. Some of these older games, and they're like, I can only imagine like what even Banjo-Kazooie looks like on this thing, right? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
It's upscaled to 4K. So me being a retro guy, I'm really interested in the Xbox Series X right now, because PlayStation, I think, even went out of their way to say PS1, PS2, PS3 games won't work on the 5, and I think that's a huge disservice to the community, and it's a big bummer.
It's,
Now,
it's happening
should
again.
they? Yeah, there's that whistle again. Maybe you've got like moths or something. They're
Yeah, I don't
crickets,
know.
but
These are
I,
some
I don't
loud
know.
ass crickets.
I love the idea that the devs didn't have to do anything. You just stick the game in the thing, and it works. That's nuts to me.
That is
Like,
pretty
look,
cool.
Series X, 60 frames, just sticks it. And Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 4 wasn't necessarily built with this in mind, and it just happens.
So in recent days, have you seen that they have released some looks at the original the PS4 Spider-Man game is going to be re-released
Mm-hmm.
on PS5, and so
Yes.
they've been giving some looks as to what that experience might look like. And one of the more undoubtedly it looks better, but one of the more surprising things is they changed Peter Parker's design.
Yep. Yep. I heard about this on Twitter, and it is like,
I'm like,
it's very weird because he just looks like a Tom Holland now.
yeah,
And
it looks
before
very
he
much Tom
kinda
Holland.
had like a,
And it
what was
kind of
that?
what kind
What
of
was
breaks it for me a little bit is I really liked the first Spider-Man. I liked the Peter Parker that they put in the game. And
He kinda
I
looks
don't
like
know
Andrew
why.
Garfield.
I don't know why they changed it. It seems like
It's
a lot
weird.
of work for very little reward because they
I was
already
just
had a
listening
solid design.
to Vice Waypoint, one of my favorite gaming podcasts, because it's a bunch of like, people that do really hardcore criticism and will take very specific perspectives, and it's just really, that's a bunch of smart people all sitting around a mic, right? And
Yep.
so they were talking about like, at what point is it just what like George Lucas did with the Star Wars films, right? Like, this almost replaces that original vision, and that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, I totally understand remastering something, but it's such a vast difference.
Yeah. I could see maybe updating a model or changing it slightly, but this is a new this is a new head
Yeah, that
from
looks like a
scratch.
completely different person.
And it's clearly rendered better. It clearly
Oh
is
yeah, of
like
course.
it clearly looks better just like a technical standpoint. But I would argue I don't see it being a better design, and I don't understand the choice other than maybe there's something about the way that the original head is modeled that made it easier to appear, like to animate or render on a PS4 hardware, and now that they have PS5 hardware, they can do maybe a more subtle face shape. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But it is baffling.
it's interesting. I think at the end of the day, so not only did they show off, that there's going to be a new Peter Parker face, but they also showed off ray tracing
Yep.
in the remake of Spider-Man PS4, quote unquote Marvel's Spider-Man, if you want to get very particular about the title. And that looks incredible, right? Like,
So
I am very excited to see how Miles Morales specifically.
so what they're saying is that we've found the reflections in the puddle.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you remember
some of
when
the
that
screenshots they have of him like clinging to the wall and the reflection of like the glass
Yeah.
in the buildings, like that's cool.
Do you remember when the game came out, or they finally released like what it's going to actually look like, and people were like, "Where are the reflections in the puddle?" Or whatever.
Now I kind of blame previous E3 stuff for that. That's what we called a bullshot. And one of
Yeah.
the most egregious was one of the kill zones, and when it came out, it looked nothing like the trailer.
Yeah, I know. I remember
Watch
it, but I
Dogs
just
was another
remember
one,
people
like-
being like I
Dude, people
understand
get
that it may
pissy
have
about so many things.
yeah, I understand that it may have been overselling the visuals or whatever, but the game
Yeah.
still looked amazing. And I feel like if you're nitpicking reflections in a puddle, at that point
You're a PC gamer. Get off the PlayStation. One other piece I do want to touch on before we close out the end of the night, though, Joe, is one of the biggest gaming icons is entering the most iconic fighting arena. Steve from Minecraft,
right,
as
that
well
was
as
this week.
the Enderman and the zombie and Alex as not Echo Fighters, just different character skins. They're all coming to Smash Brothers. And the
Yep.
biggest thing that we can take away from this is Kirby when eating Steve becomes Squared Kirby. Best game ever. Squared Kirby, I am a big fan of. So Steve is in, and he actually looks really unique and weird and kind of fun. And it's just like, it's another example of the Smash Brothers team going above and beyond for every single character.
Yeah. At this point, it kind of seems like Sakurai is kind of like, sure, whatever. If we get the
They're
rights
just doing things to shake things up mechanically, I think.
yeah. One of the animations I saw for this that kind of made me chuckle is his roll animation. So when a character's down and you want to like get away from an
Their
attack,
wake up roll.
yeah. So they like roll. Steve's is just whap. He just like slides along the floor and like goes up. He doesn't roll or anything. He just like kind of slides and then like rotates.
His movements are so strange compared to the rest of the cast.
Well, it's
I
kind
kind
of
of love that.
It's kind of like when they added Game and Watch, right?
Yeah. Game & Watch is a very distinctive style. All the other characters kind of adhere to that style.
But in Steve's case, he can't even manage that.
No, he's a Minecraft character dropped into Smash Brothers. And I think one of the most impressive things is like one of his moves gets you a block, and that block's properties are based on the actual like floor properties. And so they had to program in all those floor properties into all these stages. And it's just like, cool. Good grief.
That's a lot of work for seemingly
Steve.
Yeah.
Just Steve. I'm so excited because there's a whole community of gamers that grew up on Minecraft, right? And that's their jam. Like that is everything that
so
they love.
Old.
Yeah, I know, right?
Minecraft was just
wait till it gets to the Fortnite kids.
Yeah, Minecraft was just beyond like I was in college when Minecraft hit super huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, learning 3D modeling and things like that, and people were like, play Minecraft, you can build anything. And I'm like, I can build anything I want in 3D modeling software. Like, and make it look real.
QB.
Yeah. It is Minecraft impressive.
It's cool.
But just not for me. Just not my kind of
It's
game.
one of those games that has that really fulfilling gameplay loop for me. It's kind of like Stardew Valley. Like I started Stardew Valley once, played it for 8 hours, and like, fuck, I can't do this. I can't play a game 8 hours at a time, so I just never touched it again.
So I've
literally played that game once.
I think when like quarantine started, like 6 months ago already. I fired up Stardew Valley. In like 3 days, I put in like 25 hours. Haven't touched it since. Yep,
but that's what I'm saying. Like the initial gameplay loop is very addictive, and that's why I think Minecraft was so successful. Is because just the act of digging, finding, building, that feels amazing.
Well, there's also that just like full freedom to just create pretty much anything that your mind can come up with. And it
gets really complicated when you throw in redstones and be able to make your own circuits, and people like emulate Pokemon within Minecraft by like a bajillion different. They're basically programming in the game. Like it's crazy. But I'm down for some Steve in Smash Brothers. I guess my question is like, who do we see next? Because to me, all of the characters I've ever wanted in Smash are there. When Banjo and Kazooie was added, I was like, okay, like anything else past this point, whatever. Because I've got my dream pick.
I guess it's
is
just
already
bonus. One of the tweets that made me laugh about Steve was, "All right, Steve, which Fire Emblem game is he from again?"
I do love some Fire Emblem. I would be down with a Lyn from Fire Emblem, but I'm tired of seeing Fire Emblem characters like everybody else.
And like when they added the hero from Dragon Quest, and people are like, "Oh, so just a Fire Emblem character, an anime character with a sword, great." Just what Smash
he's got
Brothers
completely unique mechanics, and that's a whole like amazing thing to itself. I love Dragon Quest. I want to play more of it. They're just so long.
They are long.
I've got the Slime controller. I really want to play the new one, 11. I'm just waiting for it to go on sale on the Switch. I'm gonna snag that puppy, and I'm gonna just like hole away for a week or two, and don't fuck with me. I'm playing Dragon Quest.
Something I noticed on Steam recently is they're releasing the definitive edition that came out on the Switch on Steam. You can pre-order it for December release for $40.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, the original release is still $60.
The PlayStation one? I thought it dropped to $40.
the Steam version of Dragon Quest XI is still $60.
Oh,
But
huh.
the definitive edition, or the Dragon Quest XI S, or whatever they want to call it, that includes
Yeah.
all the extra features and stuff they added to the Switch port, is $40 to pre-order. And I'm just like,
Weird.
at this point, I feel like the original release should get a price drop.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
and,
coming.
and then I'm also curious if there's going to be maybe like for $10 I can upgrade my version, or even just a free update because I've been playing the original version for so many years or whatever. Because like, and maybe my expectations are high because when Larian released the definitive edition of Divinity Original Sin 2, if you already had the game, you automatically got upgraded to the definitive edition.
We love to see it, but it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Square's plans are for it. It just seems
I had to
weird.
guess probably not, considering Square.
Yeah, it.
I love them, but that doesn't seem like a Square move. So I wouldn't have pretty high hopes for that.
But that was
But
just
yeah,
something I noticed this week. Was like, why is this still $60?
yeah.
And why is the brand new version 40?
So I do want to touch on a couple random games I'm looking forward to. I think mostly this month. So it is October. We're recording this on the 4th. October is my birthday month. It's also the wedding anniversary month, which also happens to fall on
Jeez, man.
Halloween. Like
You just packed
October
your
is one of my favorite months.
you just packed your whole life into 1 month.
Yeah, pretty much. So we are going to try to do some more spookiness and some not just like horror games, but horror themed games. And so you might catch us playing a Dragon Quest, or not Dragon Quest,
Dragon Quest.
Castlevania at some point. But a couple games I'm looking forward to this month. One is called Vigil: The Longest Night. This is from another indie. It is basically 2D Bloodborne. And every time I've tested this game, I think that the music really, really shines through in this one. It feels like Bloodborne, and
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this release. My problem with a lot of their releases is the initial run kind of stumbles and falters, so I'm hoping that's not the case with Vigil. But they have another indie have a tendency to like make their games better over time, and so I think they're also doing a console version of Yuppie Psycho here very, very soon, and that is a horror like existentialist office game with crazy cutscene quality. And so I'm really looking forward to picking up Yuppie Psycho finally. I've been waiting for it to come to Switch because I'm like, that's the perfect Switch game for me. And then lastly, one of the big titles of the horror genre, especially in the YouTube space, is Amnesia. And so Amnesia is getting Amnesia Rebirth, which is a new title,
Yep.
and that comes out on October 20th. So the previous Vigil comes out, I think, on the 10th or the 14th. But Amnesia Rebirth, I think, is a game to look out for because the devs at Frictional Games usually they only make something once in a while, right? Like they're
Yeah.
always kind of iterating on their games, but a whole new release is out of the ordinary for them. And so I want to see what they're doing with this Rebirth game. And hopefully we'll get to play it because I did put in for a review code and I need to put in an official request for Vigil, but I imagine we could probably get a code for that. That's October 14th for Vigil: The Longest Night, a couple days after my birthday. Love that. But yeah, so I'm ready for some scary shit. Personally, I don't know about you, but we've been playing World War Z, we've been playing Left 4 Dead,
Yeah.
zombies. Okay, cool. We played some Among Us. That's got some horror in it, just a touch.
Yeah, a touch.
I really want to sit down and play Lost in Vivo. It's that indie game I've had forever. And it looks like first person low poly Silent Hill, and I'm here for it. So that might be a stream.
Over on Daddy Gamer,
Uh-huh.
Lil Gamer and myself started streaming the Ghostbusters video game.
Oh, how's that going?
It's been fun. I actually paid attention to the tutorial this time, and so some
nice.
of it's happening a lot easier. Last time I totally missed the prompt or the tutorial to like shoot out like basically a grenade blast with your
Photon pack or whatever.
Photon pack.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
set out like a photon like blast or whatever. and so
Cool.
that can like stun an enemy for a moment or whatever. And so like I'm just getting like way more familiar with like the way the game mechanics work, so it's going a lot
Now,
smoother
are
this
you
time
playing the
around.
remastered, so to speak?
The remaster or the
Yeah.
re-release and I'm playing the Switch port of it.
I would love to give that a go.
I think even brand new it was like $40, and I think on Epic Game Store it's like 25 now.
Oh, it's on
Um,
Epic Store. That's why it didn't pop up. Interesting.
I didn't
That
know
might
if it
be
was
what I
on
use my
Steam or not.
$10
I
credit
just
on.
know I saw it on Epic. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
just
it's a
checked on
fun
Steam as well.
title. You know, the cast returns to voice their characters. You're playing a new addition to the team.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You're like a new hire or whatever, and so you're the
You're the
person. You're the
self-insert character.
well, yeah. You're the person that they hired to test all the new gear that they make, so that they don't put
Hmm.
themselves at risk. So it's still got those like funny moments. Um, you know that class like that weird, wacky. I don't know how it works, but still somehow works. Humor that Ghostbusters nailed in the
Yeah.
'80s. Um, but yeah, it's a good time. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to stream Dead Space 2 on here or over on Daddy Gamer, since I streamed the first game on Daddy Gamer.
Right.
And that provided me with one of the best clips my channel has ever had.
Yeah, we
Uh,
talked about them last week. That was really, really good.
where a little gamer just comes out of the darkness and just scares the
Yeah.
bejesus out of me.
That's up
Um,
to you, man. I mean, we'll always take it over on Forever Classic Games, but that was before you decided to like stick with the entirely family-friendly stuff on Daddy. So it's up to you, man.
yeah, so like
You're welcome either way.
yeah, that's the thing I need to decide is if that's still in the vision of the channel,
Hmm.
because I think that there's an important discussion to be had as a parent about playing games that aren't suited for your children,
Right.
and knowing when to play them and like being appropriate in those situations. Like I'm not gonna play Dead Space 2 with her.
And like have her sit there the whole time and also have
Yeah,
the audio on. Like that's a completely different experience.
yeah, and so you know it's one of those things where uh, I think it's an important discussion to be had and to show that, be like, hey, you know, I'm deliberately streaming this late at night because that's when my family's in
Yeah.
bed. But at the same time, that's when I'm gonna would be streaming it no matter what, and so I could maybe stream it here and you know get us a couple of viewers or whatever.
Yeah.
Same with Yakuza. It just doesn't fit the the vision of the channel as
Right.
much.
I don't
Um,
remember if I streamed because I played all three Dead Space games on stream for the Dead of Winter charity stuff, right? And I
yeah,
don't remember if I did that here on Forever Classic Games or on my original channel, Forever Classic 105. I'd like to think it might have been here, but regardless, it may not be the first time Dead Space 2's been on the channel, and that's kind of cool. Different perspective.
yeah. I am looking forward to it. We'll see if I run into any issues with a. I know some of these older games sometimes don't like current hardware,
Yeah.
and whether or
Oh,
not
Resident Evil 7 again.
I will upscale it to 4K.
Ooh. Ooh, find the mod for that.
I already
There you go.
feel the anxiety tightening in my chest because playing the first game was just, oh my goodness.
As somebody who recently went through the series, and I really want to play the light gun games because I like light gun games, and that's on the Wii, so it's like fairly easy to set up. But I've only played 1, 2, and 3. I would almost say skip 3 because it's as bad as they say.
So what I've heard is if I'm gonna play 3, do it actually cooperatively.
You would get through it a lot quicker, but
Find another
it is
player.
a shit show. It's not a good game at all. They really screwed up the balance with the weapons specifically.
Mm,
If it wasn't for that, the game might be playable. But Dead Space 2, I thought the first one to me is the highlight of the entire series. It's incredible. But
it's
DS2 has
such a
got a
smart
lot of really
game.
cool
Like
moments.
the choice to put the choice to design a character that
Mhm.
all
Yep.
of the video game UI is on the character.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
And it really pulls you into that experience because you're not looking at it feels less like you're looking through a screen at an event that's happening because you have this barrier of UI elements between you and the character. That's gone. You are the character. You are Isaac, and the audio design in that game is perfect.
Very good. Very,
It's
very,
so
very good.
good. You know, you walking down a hallway and you hear like the little skittles and like skittering and like scratches and stuff, and you're like, I hear you. Where are you? I hear you. And you're like
Sometimes
amping
it's just
yourself.
the game messing with you is
Yeah,
what's fun.
and you'll go 2 rooms and not see a single thing, and then you'll turn around and there it is.
Yep. No,
um,
Dead Space, I think, is one of the most tightly designed, like, action horror experiences out there. I really, really enjoy the first one.
yeah, it's quality game,
Mhm.
very well made, and I hated it.
When you get to the end of the second one, me and you can have some talks because I have some feelings about the end of that game specifically.
All right,
But
sounds good.
man,
Well, maybe
Dead
that
Space
sinks it
is
in.
cool series.
Maybe I'll stream that on here then. So when I'm dedicating streaming for Dead Space 2, it'll be on Forever Classic.
That's your
Because
decision. We'll rock
I
it.
have a spooky game for Daddy Gamer with Ghostbusters, which there's a bit of a story behind it. No joke, for like 2 years when Little Gamer was 2, Ghostbusters was her favorite movie.
Yeah, we've talked about this
We'd be
before
like,
too.
"What's your favorite
Love
movie?" And
Ghostbusters.
she'd go and grab Ghostbusters off the shelf, and we're like, "What?" And it was like one of those days where she was in her room playing or whatever, and I'm like, "You know what? I'm in the mood for Ghostbusters." So I pop in Ghostbusters. About
She loved it.
25, 30 minutes into the movie, she wanders in and sits down and watches it with me, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should shut this off." And I kept looking over at her, like her to like maybe like hide or get scared, but she loved it. And she would like later, like I think like a day or two later, my mom was watching her while I was at work and my wife was at work, and she like calls me and she's like, "Can you talk to Lil Gamer?" And I was like, "Sure. What's up?" And Grandma won't let me watch Ghostbusters. It's my favorite movie. And she's like, "It's not your favorite movie. Like, I doubt your dad even let you watch it." And I'm like, "Actually,
It is.
it's her
She loves
favorite movie."
it. So is she able to play co-op with you then, or are you guys just kind of playing in the same?
It doesn't have multiplayer built into it.
Oh, yeah, because you're on the.
I'm on the
Are you on the
Switch.
PC version?
What?
Oh, you're on the Switch. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So I'm on the Switch with it. I think they were talking about adding multiplayer in later, but it might have been online only.
Right.
So she's just kind of sitting there and enjoying watching me play it. So what we've been doing is
Arguably the best Ghostbuster game.
that's what I've heard.
Mhm.
And I've played at least one of the Ghostbuster games on the old original Nintendo, and it was garbage. It was
There's
not.
one I think that people like, but
Yeah, I think that, but that I think one was more of like an arcade, like shooter or whatever, like Contra. The one I played was like the overhead look of the city map, and you had to travel from location to location or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just super weird.
See, I don't think I've ever finished or watched a Ghostbusters film from front to back, except for maybe the newest one.
Okay.
And it was fine. It's a fine movie. It's not as bad as what people are saying. That's a whole nother conversation.
So I'm sure some people. I'm sure this will make some certain members of our audience maybe cheer, or certain people out there cheer. I was like, when it came out, we got a free copy of it somehow. I don't remember it. Maybe through some promotion, but we got it.
Right.
And I was like, she loves Ghostbusters. Why don't I watch the new Ghostbusters with her? And she watched it, and she had like her moments where she enjoyed it. And I'm like, "So what'd you think?" And she's like, "Why did they make it? Why did they make this movie?" And then she's like, "Can we watch the original one?" And she ran to the shelf and grabbed it and like held it up to like see if I would be okay with her watching it.
It's not just jaded nostalgia nerds, we promise.
I mean, it was a
It's
fine
jaded
movie,
nostalgia
and
nerd.
you know, Chris
totally accept
Hemsworth is amazing in it.
Oh, he is. I love
and
Chris
it's got
Hemsworth
its
in it.
moments where the humor just lands so perfectly.
Yeah.
But every now and then you can tell the joke was written for a totally different audience, and it just doesn't land as well. it
Yeah.
just like the transition to it, like it's just a little awkward. Like it just kind of it's almost like going to Earth 2 in the DC universe, you know? Like
Right.
this
Kim
is
loved it. That was one of her like favorite um like nerdy style remaster, remake, revisiting kind of movies we've seen in a while.
yeah, it's a solid experience. Overall enjoyable. Is it as good as the original? No.
I don't think so.
Is it as good as 2? It's probably better than 2. Two's not really that great. But the original just nails everything just so perfectly.
And
Um,
soon we'll be getting a continuation of the Ghostbusters story with a lot of the original characters, or at
supposedly,
least some of them. Yeah.
you know,
So I'm
if
not
one of
super
them
into
doesn't,
Ghostbusters. I just know like certain things about it because people in podcasts I listen to rave about Ghostbusters, and I've
yeah.
listened to a lot of like game breakdowns and this and that. But Joe, if folks wanted to find Forever Classic on the internet, where might they do that?
Well, they would find us at Forever Class or Forever X Classic Games or whatever. What is it on
So
Twitter?
on Twitter, it's Forever X Classic.
There you go.
Internet, it's
Uh,
foreverclassicgames.com.
that'll yeah, you know.
And email is the Forever Classic
Hey
Podcast
Joe, here's a
at
question. Hey Alex,
gmail.com.
answer your own question.
I was setting you up for failure, and I apologize. Because initially I'm like, well, I'll just have him pitch his stuff first. But I'm like, doesn't it make more sense to do our stuff first? I don't know. But if you if you wanted to find me specifically, it's at AC McCumbers on Twitter.
If you want to find
And,
me specifically, it's the Daddy Gamer on Twitter.
yeah. And as a way to close the show, I do just want to remind people that the voting season is coming up. Your registration day may be very, very soon, so go do that.
My
Especially if
ballot's
you're an
on
American.
my desk here somewhere. So
I've got to do mine tonight before I go to sleep. But either way, everybody at home, thanks for hanging out with us. Forever Classic Games is something near and dear to my heart, especially, and gaming is something that I just have fun with. And so I'm excited to bring that energy here to everybody else, and have these conversations and get to talk to developers and stuff. It's one of my favorite things,
yeah,
and I wish to
it's
do
a
it
lot
all
of
the
fun.
time.
So with that, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching, listening, however you decided to tune in to our ramblings. Have a wonderful day, or whatever it is. But till next time, play some games, hydrate, do all those good, healthy things. Or if you need it, take a nap.
Yeah,
You know what?
naps are good.
If you need a nap, take a nap. You deserve it.
Mhm.
Rest